Hey, how's it going? Jeff Lerner here, and in this video, I want to talk to you about a book that actually had a huge impact on me, and I'm really excited to be shooting a video about it because it's not only a great book that I think any business person should read, or any aspiring business person or aspiring entrepreneur should read, but it's also a book that, like I said, had a huge impact on me and is even, I think, a big part of the reason why I now do what I do and even make these videos for you. So the book is Blue Ocean Strategy by W. Chan Kim and Renee Mauborgne. I think I said that right. Anyways, I may not know exactly how to pronounce the author's name, but I definitely know a lot about the book, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. Okay, so Blue Ocean Strategy, like I said, was posted by W. Chan Kim and Renee Mauborgne by Harvard Business Review Press in 2004. And this book was really influential. It came out to much to do at the time in business circles. I was in college at the time and vaguely remember hearing about it. I was a music major, so it wasn't like a big deal in my life, but I kind of knew of it. And years later, when I came back to it, it was really 2008 when I first read it. And then, yeah, I think that's right. But then even then it was like premature. I wasn't really the place in my life where the concepts, I mean, they made sense, but they couldn't really impact me. But then I read it again in, I want to say 2016, I guess would be. Yeah, 2016, fall of 2016. And it really helped define the course of where I've gone with my life since then. So I'm going to share with you exactly how it's influenced me. It's how it's really helped me, frankly, how it's made me a lot of money. But before that, let me just kind of give you some basic background on the book. Now, I'm not going to give you like an exhaustive description of the book because, frankly, you can get that easily online. I mean, Wikipedia has a great summary of the book. There's lots of robust reviews and analysis of what's in the book. Here's what I'll basically share with you about the book, just kind of some core concepts that are going to drive my analysis of the book and my review of the book, which in general is really positive, but also I guess more specifically, my story of how I used the book to actually as a creative force in my life. And that's, I think, what makes it so powerful for me. First of all, the book is sort of anchored around this concept of what it calls value innovation. And value innovation is basically what the book distinguishes as the driver of the Blue Ocean Strategy. And the core of value innovation is basically simultaneous pursuit of lower cost and differentiation. Typically, you have like a qualitative versus quantitative kind of conflict in business where it's like either something becomes commoditized and quality decreases, or differentiation decreases as cost decreases, or, and this is traditional business theory, or the more custom, the more unique, the more one-off, the more high touch or bespoke, or whatever term you want to put on it, something is, the more it drives cost up. And so Blue Ocean Strategy basically argues that you can have both. That there are certain companies that have made what they call strategic moves, where in sort of a momentary pivot or shift or evolution, a company will do something where it simultaneously creates or increases value to the market while also lowering cost or maintaining cost by removing or decreasing those aspects of a product or service that are less valued by the market. I'll give you some examples. Before I give the examples though, and I probably should have started with this, the concept itself of blue ocean, if that term is new to you, basically says there's blue oceans and red oceans. And the typical sort of militaristic approach to business is the red ocean model. It's about conflict, it's about competition, it's about literally trying to take out your competitors or slash your competitors so there's blood in the water, so to speak, right? The red ocean. A blue ocean says, what can we do as a business to create something, it's our own waters to swim in where there is no competition. Blue Ocean Strategy is about making competition irrelevant. And there's kind of a core premise that over time, blue oceans become red oceans, because a blue ocean is usually an innovation, and then you're gonna have copycats and the water's gonna bloody over time. But I'm gonna talk a little bit about how I actually think that's not totally true and how I found that to not be true in my case. But first, let me give some examples of companies that have made these strategic moves. And one of the things that Blue Ocean strategy starts with is it starts by asking the question of like, what is the foundational question of measuring profitability? Or what's the I think it calls it the foundational unit of measuring profitability. Is it the company? Do we say, okay, let's find the most profitable company and let's analyze the company? Or is it, let's find the most profitable industry and let's analyze the industry? In other words, to understand profitability at its core, what's the basic sort of deducted unit that we can study? And they reject that it's any company, they reject that it's any industry, and they basically boil it down to, again, that term that they use, strategic moves. It's these shifts that really any company can make at any time. Sometimes it's a new company that's founded on a strategic move. Sometimes it's a company that's been around for a long time that might make a strategic move to create, through this process of value innovation, again, to create or raise value in the market while simultaneously to decrease or remove aspects that are less valued by the market. And I'm gonna give you 3 examples that'll kind of help that make more sense. First of all, is a company I'm sure you're familiar with, Cirque du Soleil. So basically what Cirque du Soleil did, and whether they did this, whether this is 2020 hindsight or whether at the core, the guy, I forget the name of the guy that started Cirque du Soleil, he's a billionaire now, but whether he was thinking in these strategic terms or it was just a convergence of his passions and interests, I guess no one will ever really know. Basically what he did, whether he knew it or not, was he said, let's take the very high value art forms of opera and ballet, which have an elegance and a refinement and in particular an appeal to a high end of the market. People pay a lot for those tickets, right? And let's combine it with the more popular, more mainstream medium of the circus. So that was the value creation, was to combine the elegance of opera and ballet with the common appeal of the circus, but let's simultaneously reduce, in other words, well, that's how they got their differentiation, but then the way they were able to maintain or reduce cost, where the tickets didn't become significantly more expensive than either circus or ballet or opera tickets, was they said, let's remove the focus on the star performer, who's the highest paid person in the act, and the animals. The animals are the most expensive part of running a circus. Let's remove the animals, remove the stars, and focus on the art and combine opera, ballet, and circus. And that was their value innovation. And they went on to, become inarguably the most profitable and widely known circus in the world. Another company, another example of this value innovation is Southwest Airlines. And they said, okay, and again, Southwest Airlines' story grew organically. Herb Kelleher was, I want to say, in Austin or Dallas. Anyways, Southwest was basically developed to give Texas-based executives the ability to move easily between the triangle cities of San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston. So I don't think it was Austin. It was San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston. Anyways, if I'm remembering the story right. So basically it was like the convenience of local executive business travel, which is, at that time, because Texas had the oil industry and you had a lot of business executives going between those cities, it was like there had to be a lot of chartering or a lot of, small planes. They basically said, let's create the flexibility of business executive travel, but let's avoid what's typically associated with that flexibility, which is the inconvenience of having to use major airports. So at the time, if you wanted to get from Houston to Dallas, maybe it was Houston to San Antonio, again, I don't remember, but I think you had to fly like out of the state and then back into the state. There was some convolution of the routing, where you basically had to deal with major airports. And you had these executives that basically said, look, I want to be, and what Southwest created for them was the ability to say, wake up in the morning in Houston, hop on a plane in the morning, be in San Antonio for a midday meeting, and then be back at the small regional airport and be back in Houston by dinner time, right? So they took, again, the flexibility of business travel and combined it what they removed was the inconvenience of having to deal with large hub and spoke airports. Another example of a company in the book is Curves. Curves isn't as big now, but at the time, Curves was one of the most successful franchises in the United States. And basically, Curves was small local gyms for women. And so what Curves did was they took the gym concept and they made it strip mall convenient, like literally just drive down the street. They used a local franchise model, so you could just drive a mile down the street, park in a strip mall, walk right in, Curves, boom, you're in the gym. You didn't have to go deal with these mega gyms. But what they removed that was the less valued aspect of the gym model was that whole meat market atmosphere that made women uncomfortable. So Curves were women only. And so basically they made going to the gym more convenient. They had lots of classes. They helped them with things like daycare and dealing with scheduling around kids and stuff. And they removed the sort of perceived chauvinistic feel of the big multi-gender gyms, I guess you'd call them. And boom, I mean, it was an explosive growth story. So anyway, you get the sense, but here's where I kind of want to take this video, because that's a reasonable sort of basic dissection of the book. But the reality is, my guess, and first of all, if you're watching my channel, you're probably not the CEO of a Fortune 500 company looking to value innovate with a strategic move and a blue ocean shift in your business. You're probably more like me, like I was, where you're like, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm the little guy. I'm a one-off. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. I'm a startup. I'm a side hustler. I just want to create something cool and sustainable that contributes to my quality of life and can help me take care of my family and can help me live maybe this awesome life that I've heard Jeff talk about in other videos. And for me, it was really powerful when I read this book in 2016. And it honestly took me the better part of 2 years to fully figure out what it was that I was trying to do. But I literally remember, I was walking, I was at the end of a long run and I'd been listening to the book on audio. And I was walking back from the bridge there's a bridge near my house to my house. It was about a mile, it was the last mile, and it was a cool down, and I was just walking. And I was processing the book and I was going, how do I create a blue ocean in my life? And at the time, I had a digital agency that was about to be named in the Inc. 5000 for the second time. It was doing about $6 million a year in revenue. I was a sole owner. It was a great business. I had a great life, but I really wanted to create something, special and life-defining and move forward and just, kind of do the next cool thing. And I remember thinking, like, how can I create the blue ocean for my future? And the seed that was planted in that moment, basically by 2018, grew into this idea through fits and starts and trying to get it going, of basically creating what I now call an awesome life company. And so my blue ocean story is basically how, listening to this book, I remember thinking, okay, I need to add value to the market, but I also need to subtract something that is less valued from the market. And then I want to create a blue ocean, and then I have this concept that blue oceans turn to red over time. So is there any way I can protect against that? That was kind of the genesis that this book gave me. And over the next couple of years, here's what I basically figured out is, and this is the origin story of my company, Entre, and there's a lot of twists and turns to it. But basically, Entre is the awesome life company. It's a category creator of a company that I call an awesome life company. There is no other company like this. And basically what we do is we combine business education, which is normally kind of sterile and stuffy, or clinical or academic, with personal development. And typically, if you look at the entrepreneurial space, there's kind of two categories within that space. You've got the true curriculum-based education companies that teach you, like, here's a course on how to use Microsoft Office Suite, here's a course on how to do Adobe Creative Suite, here's a course on how to build a sales funnel, here's a course on how to become better at sales, here's a course on how to do business accounting, here's a course. And they're just very academic and course-based. Then you have the business opportunity companies, like, let's say, multi-level marketing companies, direct sales companies, even what I would call just sort of straight personal development companies that have a lot of legitimate psychology and personal development and even some professional development and growth strategies. But the actual underlying business training, I think you could argue leaves something to be desired, if only because they're kind of railroading you into one thing. So, like, you could join up with an MLM and they would give you Probably potentially, if it's a good MLM or if they've invested a lot, they give you a lot of really, really great personal growth training. But everybody there gets railroaded into selling this one thing to all their friends and family. And that's not a great business model. And then you can go join these other companies that say, well, we'll teach you digital marketing and we'll teach you consulting and we'll teach you how to build tools and skills, but it's very clinical. And frankly, my experience, the thing that people struggle with the most getting into entrepreneurship, particularly if they're coming out of a job paradigm, is the motivation and the self-management and becoming disciplined and becoming energetic and creative and being the driving force in their own business, because they no longer have a boss or an operations manual or anybody cracking the whip, and they're no longer answering for a paycheck, right? And then kind of I would say the third element would be you have these quote gurus who are like, well, I'll get you all pumped up and I'll teach you a skill, but it's gonna be my one thing because I made $1 million starting an e-com store, so I'm gonna, kind of do the same thing the MLMs do. I'm gonna railroad everybody into starting an e-com store because that's what I did. Or I made $1 million as an affiliate marketer, so I'm gonna railroad everybody into being an affiliate marketer. And I'll tell you what I did. And anyway, so what I looked at the landscape and I said, okay, right now people are sort of forced to choose. They can get great personal development, they can get great guru leadership, or they can get great curriculum-based training, but they usually don't get all of it. And so, I said, well, the reality, I've been on a 10-year journey of becoming my own entrepreneur, doing digital marketing and real estate. And I say, honestly, people need all of it. They need to have options. We shouldn't be shoving everybody into just one business model or certainly one product or service. They need the various skills and tools trainings, but honestly, people need a lot of mindset and personal and professional growth training. So I'm gonna create a category called an Awesome Life Company that basically equips all three legs of that stool for people to be able to create an awesome life. And I can honestly say that if I hadn't read the Blue Ocean book, I think I would have gone into that as an idea going, oh, this is too big, or it's too radical, or it's too innovative, or if it was gonna work, somebody else would have done it. But on the basis of the Blue Ocean book, I was able to go into that and go, okay, as long as I'm value innovating, as long as I'm adding value in certain areas and I'm subtracting the undervalued aspects, in other words, what's the undervalued aspect of an MLM? If the personal growth and personal development training is great, but the railroading into a particular product is not, let me subtract that element. And then in a business education platform, if the training is great, but the sterile academic culture is not, let me subtract that culture. Let me create the cultural enthusiasm of an MLM with the diversified skills and tools training of a business education platform with the, for lack of a better term, figurehead guru leadership, I guess that approach to marketing education, and let me bring it all together, right? And frankly, it's been a home run. I mean, this isn't a video about my success story, but I can tell you it's a video about this book being the foundation that literally unlocked for me a blue ocean of potential. And here's the cool thing, and this is what I've learned, and this is kind of my innovation on the blue ocean strategy, is yes, blue oceans turn red over time. I think generally speaking, that's a true statement. You look at, what Apple did with the iPhone, and admittedly, they're still the leader, at least at the time I'm shooting this video, but those waters have bloodied a little bit, with Samsung and HTC and other device manufacturers that have come in and kind of tried to emulate a lot of what the iPhone did. Here's the thing that I think those of us that are kind of small, the little guy, right? Like I'm not Apple, I was just one guy, right? Here's what we can take from this. If you build your brand, if you fill your ocean, so to speak, with a personality-driven brand or a figurehead-based brand, and this is what the quote guru-based brands actually got right. Like the Tony Robbins or even like the Russell Brunsons, even though that's ClickFunnels and that's software, it's really a guru-based brand. The T. Harv Ekers, the Zig Ziglars, even the Sam Ovens, like what those guys got right is they say, hey, a blue ocean can never be bloodied if it's based around a person, because a single person is always going to be a unique proposition to the market. It's not something like the Tony Robbins brand is never going to get cluttered by confusion by other people, because just as human beings, we're wired to be able to remember millions and millions of unique individual faces. Where, like, we might look at a device and say, I can't tell if that was manufactured by Samsung or Hitachi, but we're never going to look at a face and say, I can't tell if that's Tony Robbins or Oprah Winfrey, right? So if you have a blue ocean strategy, but you anchor it in a personal brand, you essentially fortify the blueness of the ocean. And that's kind of been my innovation, to where as long as Entre stays heavily rooted in my personal brand, I don't really ever have to worry about it getting diluted or muddied. Now, as soon as you go to corporate, and I know people who've done this. I have a friend, I don't want to call him out, but I have a friend who launched essentially a business education platform, but he didn't do it as himself. He did it as a generalized brand. And 2 years later, it came out with a bang. 2 years later, nobody really knew what it was. It didn't stand out in any way. And he's since reverted it back to his own personal brand. Essentially, he put the blue dye back in the water, so to speak. So anyway, that was kind of a hybrid book review and analysis, along with a story and an origin of, and hopefully an inspiration of how this book, I think, can springboard you into some creative thinking and some bold risk taking. And then my innovation to the book is that if you anchor whatever risk you take or whatever step you take in your personal brand, you can keep the water blue for a very long time, if not forever. So I hope that that's of value to you. This has been a little bit of a, like I said, a hybrid of a content piece about a book, but also a little bit of an explanation of what my business is about. So maybe it's a good time to say, if you want to learn more, check out Entre, that's fine. But especially at least subscribe to my channel, because my the content's free. I'm not, selling you anything with these videos. But what I am going to do is continue to bring you content that is oriented in this direction that I've talked about, having an awesome life. Entre is the Awesome Life company. My YouTube channel is my free contribution to the world about awesome life strategy, awesome life tips, awesome life tactics, and hopefully awesome life inspiration and intent, that at least, if nothing else, you take from this and go, man, this awesome life thing really is doable, and there's a lot to learn about it, and there's a lot to say about it, and at least there's one guy who's really, really committed to me having it, so maybe I can tune into him and feel motivated and inspired every single day. So if that sounds good to you, then go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'd love to count you as a subscriber. Make sure if you do that you click the little bell so you get notified when new videos come live, and I do appreciate your time. I'll see you in the next video.